Hello, Aki Bermise.
Oh, Stevie, it's good to see you once again.
'Tis good to see you, 'tis good to be seen.
It has been many a star date since last we convened to talk about Star Trek Discovery.
It has.
But, yes, we're both looking great
Yes, we do.
from our excursions about the world. Mm-hmm. And we are back for this final few episodes of Star Trek Discovery. I can't wait, and I'm also devastated that it's about to be over.
Forever.
Forever.
Forever and ever, amen.
Unless they make a movie. Maybe they'll make a movie. You ever think about that? Did you ever think about that, Alice Kurtzman? Disco the movie?
Disco the movie. I have a feeling they won't do it. I don't think it's got enough love across the Star Trek universe, unfortunately.
Listen, I'm a New Yorker born and bred. There's nothing I hate more than LA. But if you think I wouldn't move to LA to start a whisper campaign to get a Star Trek Discovery going, you got another thing coming, Kurtzman. Okay? And Michelle Paradise. All right? You're about to meet a new best friend in a bar and wonder why you met them, and then for 5 years they'll go closer and closer and closer to you, and then suddenly they'll incept you with the idea of doing a movie of Star Trek Discovery 5 years later.
Incept. I like that. Very good.
Thank you.
Well,
oh man, are we doing a show?
I think we should do a show.
Or am I just having pre-revenge fantasies? Let's do it. Hello and welcome in to the show proper. This is Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast, and today we're talking about Star Trek Discovery Season 5, Episode 7, entitled Erigah. It is Stardate 157526.2, and for those of you who don't know, there's just a quick backup. An Erigah from the Breen Imperium, it's just a blood bounty, and it can only be solved by blood, and they coming after your blood, and you can't get away, and everybody's gonna kill you, or demand you back for blood. So that's the name of this episode, Erigah. Not Erica, a lovely name, but Erigah. Ooh, you know, Erigah is a lovely name. If I had a child, I might name them Erigah, which is why I shouldn't have that kind of responsibility.
Well, I did think it was like, did someone just get lazy and think, Erica? Oh, Erigah.
When you've read as many fantasy novels as I have, you go, what did you just see Charles and then change the A to a Y? And they're like, my best friend Charles. You're like, good Lord, come up with names. These fantasy names. I'm just saying. Erigah's would be one. Michael often gets changed to like Meekal, Meekal, stuff like that in fantasy novels. Do you want to run down the episode, or I'm happy to talk to you about. I have books right here. I could probably pull some terrible names from.
Let's run it down.
Okay, all right, not the book thing. Let's run it down. It's time to run it down. Can you run it down for me? Talk about the car now. Run it down for me. Hell yeah, last time, Moll and L'ak, our Breen and human couriers, incurred some damage, and he was pretty injured and he ran away. That was actually 2 episodes ago, but now he's been found. L'ak and Moll, whose real name is Malene, who's the daughter of Cleveland and Booker, they're being held on the locker, and Disco has been ordered to go and transfer them so they can be brought to Federation HQ. We meet once again Commander Nan, who is a security officer who don't take no junk from nobody. Also, not even from books. She's immune to his beautiful looks and his plaintive British space druid emotion. He's like, please let me help. I've known her better than anyone else, and you need a courier like me to bring you in. And she's like, you can, if I need you, I'll let you know. And she says she was only nice to him because Michael loves him so much. We see L'ak. He's in bad shape. He's in sick bay. Moll, very, very angry. But Michael goes to bat for them, and basically Culber is going to scan them. He puts up a field. He says some vital organ of L'ak's has been hit. They don't know enough about Breen physiology to heal him. Obviously, this would be a huge diplomatic issue if a Breen died in Federation custody. Culber does have a plan. During the Dominion War, he did some research. There's evidence that Breen can regenerate in extreme cold, and they have captured a Breen fridge unit, which they can make into a cold ICU unit, which maybe will help L'ak recover. So, that's the plan. They get to HQ. Michael jumps to HQ. Before they get into HQ, there's a classified communicate with Admiral Vance, which Michael takes in her ready room. He says, I'm going to get you this fridge that you need, but you're going to have to hold on to Moll and L'ak because they've gotten a message from the Breen Imperium regarding the Erigah. Somebody from the Breen Imperium is on the way, and they want those prisoners. So, Disco, keep Moll and L'ak and go far, far away from Federation headquarters because the Breen are coming, and they're bringing a dreadnought. President Rillak is on Tellar Prime, and the Federation is going to hunt down otherwise. But Michael has an alternative plan. Michael says, let's have Disco stay and force some diplomacy. Bringing us to a meeting of the diplomats. Raynor, Vance, Michael, and Trina, President Trina of Navarre. Trina has been delegated by President Rillak to lead these quote-unquote negotiations with the Breen, has done some research. There's been no contact with the Breen since before the burn, but they know that there's been some unrest in their Imperium since the death of their Emperor, and now there are 6 primarchs who war for control of the Imperium. We don't know which one is coming to Federation HQ. Raynor expresses some dismay that we're going to try to do diplomacy with the Breen because he thinks they cannot be trusted. I wonder why. What don't we know about your backstory, Raynor? Well, we'll find out about that later. Anyway, he gets so upset he has to be dismissed by Michael. And Michael and Vance and Trina basically discuss finding something they can use to trade to negate for the Erigah. And Michael knows that this Breen dreadnought is coming into Federation space, taking a risk for themselves in order to get these prisoners. So there must be something more here, some ulterior motive as well. It is mentioned, by the way, and I think an Easter egg for the future, that Saru is on a mission near Breen space. So I feel like we're going to see Saru get Breened. I don't know what I'm trying to say there. They are going to try to do this plan, and Vance counsels Michael to keep Raynor in check because he seems like he's got something going on. Michael does go to speak to Raynor and wonders if it's personal. And Raynor says he said all he has to say, and he apologizes for his tone. Disco goes to yellow alert, baby. Meanwhile, Stamets runs down Tilly, who was going to head back to Federation headquarters to be with her students, and he says, we need you here. You got to help solve the problem with this last clue. We got this Beta Z logo, which reads the Labyrinths of the Mind, and Tilly and Adira could work on that clue while Stamets is working on the like technical part of it, like where does it come from? And they need Tilly's help. He's able to convince Tilly that the most important thing in the Federation right now is figuring out this information. In sickbay, we see L'ak is slowly improving in the cold ICU. And Michael approaches Moll and L'ak, who are in their force field, and says, is there anything they can offer that will be payment? There's a dreadnought headed this way. Some Primarch. Why does the Primarch want them? Basically, through a series of question and answer, and Michael being a deft reader of body language and the small moves in your face, micro moves,
micro expressions.
Whew. Yes, Michael is able to determine that what we knew is that L'ak is attached. His uncle is the Primarch, but we find out, I don't know if we did know this exactly, that Moll is directly descended from the Emperor. And so the Primarch that's coming, that is his uncle, wants L'ak not simply to kill him, but because L'ak would help him get the throne. And once Michael realizes this, she's like, I think I have an idea. But L'ak is like, when my uncle gets here, spit in his face for me. Tilly and Adira are trying to work out what's going on with this Beta Z clue. They find out it's the title of a manuscript written by Dr. Marina Durex, who was one of the scientists who hid the progenitor's technology, which is the overarching mission of this whole series. Also, it seems like there's no copies available, but this might have come from the original handwritten manuscript, 800 years ago. Adira suggests a search to find someone who might have some knowledge in ancient manuscripts, and Zora does turn up a rare antiquarian bookseller, Commander Reno. So Adira and Tilly go to find Reno, who's working on the targeting matrix and getting ready for the Breen to show up, and is happy to talk to them and give them some help, but they're going to have to walk and talk with her a la Thomas Schlamme, and that's a deep cut from my West Wing heads, the walk and talk shot. So, yes, Reno used to be a smuggler for a shady antiquarian archivist. It is revealed that Reno had many strange jobs before becoming a Starfleet officer, including smuggler, VIP shuttle pilot, deep mercury welder, which is a great name for a band, and a bartender at a cozy little dive on Ashelon 4. And she says, you haven't lived until you've tried her cocktail, the Seven of Limes.
Brilliant.
Yes, it really tickled me. Yeah, you haven't lived. Anyway, Reno's never heard of this manuscript, but she says it could be in a lot of places. And she's like, walk and talk with me. But as they're about to do that, the Breen arrive, and they show up on a big ass ship. The Dreadnought. I don't know why. I never understood why big ships are supposed to be impressive in space. Space doesn't matter how big your ship is. It's like, our ship's big. I guess I have a lot of soldiers on them. Doesn't matter. Anyway, big ship. It's green. Breen. The Breen love green. Can't fault them for that. It's the same ship that Michael and Raynor saw when they were stuck in the time bug cycle. Scans cannot penetrate this ship, so Vance hails them, and they are hailed back by the Primarch Rune, which sounds almost like ruin, but you replaced an H. Rune. President Trina tries to negotiate to be like, hey, I think we can get these prisoners to you. They need some medical attention maybe in like 4 hours, and Rune's like, you got 1 hour. But Trina uses a bluff, something about extradition orders, which does give them that 1 hour. And she says, Michael, you got 1 hour to use the intel that you have. So Michael goes to Raynor. She finally gets the story out of him because he's like, oh, I'm just working on stuff. It turns out Raynor's planet, Kelleran, was a Breen outpost. And his reaction is that of intensely bottled up rage. He doesn't like to talk about it. He doesn't know Primarch Rune, but there was a different Primarch on his planet, Primarch Tahal. And they made the planet a forward base and a munitions depot. They poisoned the water and polluted the air, and they starved people. And seems like there was some sort of, what do you call it? Like a rebel force that was trying to fight to take the planet back. But Raynor is the only one of his entire family who made it out. So he's dealing with that. He says that the Breen cannot be negotiated with when they want something. But that does give Michael an idea. Meanwhile, Reno, Adira, Tilly. Reno's still working. Reno's like, hey, my contacts are 800 years old, but if this was really an original handwritten manuscript, one of a kind, then Dr. Derricks would have wanted to protect it, so maybe they should check out the Gallery and Archive, a.k.a. the Archive, which is apparently a floating library in space that's always on the move that's protecting all these precious relics. And they granted access with library cards that had the title of the book on a piece of metal, which is exactly the clue that Stamets is looking at. So it looks like we're going to go to the library, folks, which this nerd is excited about. Meanwhile, in sickbay, L'ak is stable. L'ak warns Culber that the captain should not try to play Rune. Can't be done. Culber believes that there can be common ground. He steps away. Moll and L'ak conspire and whispers. They have to get the progenitor tech to bargain with so they can get rid of the Erigah. And so they hatch a plan for escape where L'ak says, I'm going to do something that makes them drop the shield. You're not going to like it, but you run, go, get a shuttle, beam me aboard, and we get out of here. Meanwhile, back at Fed HQ, the hour is almost running out. So they hail the Breen, who beam over, demanding the prisoners, and Trina says, oh, well, but I'd like to use the remainder of our time for a little conversation. And Trina has learned the language, so she's able to speak directly, or to understand directly what the Primarch is saying, allowing the Primarch to speak to her directly so that there will be no misunderstanding. They offer 45 metric tons of dilithium in order for them to lift the Erigah, and they're told that only blood can lift the Erigah. Trina says then that they are going to offer the hostages to Tahal. And this seems like part of the bluff that Michael came up with, because they have an interest in L'ak. Rune, however, is not fooled by this, but then Raynor speaks up, and Raynor, knowing Tahal well and knowing about her flagship, the Tau Ceti, named after a lethal viper that she used the slow-acting venom of to kill people when she wanted to delight in their slow death. Also, apparently, he fought her, and she would have killed him, but she liked how he fought like a Breen, she said. And that gets Rune to say, okay, maybe they truly did speak to Tahal. So Rune says, But he's like, give me the prisoner or I will destroy this whole station. I think he might even say smithereens, which can't be possible. I must have added that. He doesn't say smithereens in this episode. That's not something a Breen would say. I think he said to splinters or shrapnel or something. But in my heart, he said, I'll blow this station to smithereens. Trina calls his bluff because they're like, you need L'ak, baby. Meanwhile, in sickbay, Moll gets the guard's attentions, says that she needs to talk to the captain. And while she's doing that, L'ak opens up his medical unit and overdoses on some sort of green stuff. Everything the Breen do is green, baby. Causing Culber to bring down the shield as he goes into critical mode. Moll begins an escape. She fights off all the guards. She fights with Culber, who does hold his own pretty well, but he was trying to doctor, so he gets knocked out. But then opens the door, and who's there? Commander Nan. They fight, but there's dust, and so she manages to get the drop on Commander Nan and run. Rune, meanwhile, in Star Trek, Primarch Rune says he will accept this. Well, what he says first is that he's going to give them more than Primarch Tahagism. But then Trina's like, we don't care about that. How about this third option? We give neither of you these prisoners so that you and Tahal are fighting on equal footing. You leave here in peace. We keep the status quo the same. And later on, we can figure this all out. Rune relents. But he says, if any harm should befall the scion of the Emperor, then war will be inevitable. It is his sworn duty. And just at that moment, Burnham is called away because, as we know, in sickbay, terrible things are happening. They get to sickbay, lockdown protocol. Moll is in the wind. L'ak is critical. Moll has some sort of biometric cloaking device that makes it hard to track her. And Culber needs a Breen medic to fix what's wrong with L'ak now. And Michael's like, I think I can get you one of those. Nan goes on the search. Meanwhile, Book, who's been helping Stamets try to figure out where the metal is from, finds out that the fugitive has escaped. He wants to help, but once again, Stamets keeping people on task. It's like, you gotta stick to the mission. And something that he says about the book helps Stamets realize that there might be an empathic link. After all, we're talking about betazoids, baby. So he asks Book to try and connect. Book does his space druid thing. It's pretty hot. And then he discovers an empty, remote part of space with a huge cloud, a plasma storm, and a feeling of eternity. And that gives them a little clue to narrow down where this metal thing wants to go. And then he goes off on the hunt to find Moll. In sickbay, Michael's able to get a Breen medic, but also the Primarch is coming. And so they come down there and they start treating L'ak. Book joins the hunt. He meets up with Commander Nan, who apologizes for giving the brush off earlier. He's like, fine, I'm just here to help. They find Moll, who's holding someone hostage. They tell her that L'ak misjudged the dose and might possibly be dying. She doesn't believe it, so Book has to go out there and try. And once again, super duper empathy man. He's like, listen, she's not lying. It's true. You don't want to run. I've lost a whole planet. You want to be there for him. You want to be there with him. And so he convinces Moll to go back to sickbay to be there with L'ak because he might possibly die. If he dies, nota bene, there will be hell to pay. She gets there. L'ak is fading. But he's able to say a few last words to Moll and say, you're going to be okay, I promise you. And then he flatlines. And then the Primarch is upset. And he says, prepare for battle. And then all the Breen jump away from HQ. And then red alert, shields up. And Raynor's like, we got to strike first. And just as things seem like they're at their worst, at that dark tea time of the soul, 4 warp signatures come up on the screen. And they are Starfleet. And so finally, truly, the cavalry has come to the rescue. They face off with the Primarch, but the Primarch's troops, the Primarch still in sickbay, does not believe the Federation when they say that L'ak did this to himself. Moll, who's there, tries to convince him of the truth, and also reveals that she and L'ak are married. So, even though it's considered an abomination, they have some sort of skin thing, tattoo dealy, that allows people to know that they've been married. And she says, you're obligated to take me with you. And she reveals that she has the clue to this technology that could help them overthrow all the galaxy or whatever, and she'll give it to them if they take it with her. And so the Primarch's like, if you don't want to have war, then let me take her and get the cool stuff. And so the council is convened. He's like, you have 5 minutes to talk about it. So they talk. Apparently there is some discussion that Dr. Velek, who was the original person that sent us on this path with the progenitor's tech, believed that the tech could bring back the dead, and perhaps that is what Moll's motive is here now that L'ak is dead. Book is very upset that they're considering giving over this prisoner just to avoid war, but Trina rightly notes it's the best thing to do. It will save the most lives. It will give us more time. And so they give Moll to the Primarch. And Book makes it known that he thinks this is still wrong. Meanwhile, we get the rundown on where we're going next. This next clue, the Eternal Gallery and Archive. It changes location every 50 years. It is now presently, based on all the clues and everything that they have, somewhere in the, quote, Badlands. And it's time to jump to the last clue. So Michael and Raynor head to the bridge. We get a black alert. And there endeth episode 7 of season 5 of Star Trek Discovery, Erigah. Let's chat about that.
I say, darling, let's do a quick chat about that.
Yes, let's do. Great episode. We get all this Breen stuff, the 6 Primarchs fighting for the Imperium, the control of the Imperium. We find out that L'ak is a direct descendant of the Emperor who died. I don't know if we know how the Emperor died, but so now we get this like Breen stuff that's happening, as well as this progenitor check race. I didn't think that L'ak was going to die. And you know what? We talked about doing Faith of the Heart, but I'm not sure he's going to stay dead.
I don't think so either.
You think they take his body to the progenitor check and he comes back and he's like, I've always loved you, and turns into like a super green.
I mean, I have no idea. We don't know what this progenitor's tech is yet. We're assuming it can do things like bring.
Yeah, we honestly don't know.
Dead, but I don't know. I mean,
I don't know. Yeah.
If he doesn't come back, then Moll's going to be pissed.
Moll's going to be pissed. Moll is existing in a state of pissed offness, and that was when she had the love of her life with her. I can only imagine how she's going to react. Now, let's see. I did enjoy Reno's past being unveiled. A truly the use of the term checkered past could be applied to. She's
just one of those characters where you can bring in anything for her because we don't know enough.
Yeah, she's like, you found me keeping people alive like they were machines on a crashed ship in season 2, and my backstory, pretty wild.
She'll just come out with something that says, oh yeah, this one time I was on, I don't know, Risa 2 and blah, blah, blah. You know, like she'll just come out with like some sort of Trek lore canon thing.
Yes, she was there. She was there.
She was the OG.
Well, she gives us this archive, the eternal archive, which seems cool. And I think this next episode, I'm interested to see what this library trip yields.
For sure. I do.
And then
I was just going to say, I feel like Reno she's not like, obviously she's not Guinan. She's not like a Q, whatever. In fact, sorry, she's not a Q, but she's like a Q.
Not some sort of eternal, omniscient.
Totally.
Whatever.
But I feel like she's this sort of character where they're like, oh, we need to find someone who knows a little bit about this. And then that was when Picard would go off to Guinan and say, I've got this perplexing problem.
Yeah.
Don't suppose you know anything about this race, do you? And then Guinan were like, yes. Ooh, you want to stay away from them or whatever. Yeah. And, I feel like Reno is that character for Discovery. It's like, oh, yeah, totally. I knew about them.
Oh, yeah, ancient books. Yeah, I used to work for a smuggler. Yeah, you should check out the archive. Yes. But I thought it was wonderful. I do also love that whole scene where Reno just keeps working but is trying to help them solve this mystery. It's like Reno's always doing 14 things at a time, but is like, got to make sure these firing matrices are on point. Let's see. Oh, the Breen showing up in Federation HQ in their big old ship. And they're all like, blood is blood, whatever. And I'm the Primarch, and I'm here to show you how it's done in the Breen Imperium. We're going to take my nephew, and we're going to make me emperor, or whatever. That's the voice that I feel like connects to his vibe.
I see.
In that moment.
It was giving me... Do you remember Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yes.
The guy with the arrow thing.
That's right. Like his dad.
Yeah.
Or his like not his adopted father. Yeah.
And the arrow.
You're going to be a Star-Lord someday. Yes, that is pretty close to what I'm doing. It's cool. Now the real thing is like this, they almost managed to bluff the Breen, but then Moll and L'ak decided to do an escape thing, and L'ak offed himself by taking an overdose, and Things could have been so simple for the last few episodes, but alas, now it's a race not between a courier and the whole Federation, but this primarch of the Breen Imperium and the entire Federation to find this progenitor's tech and use it well, which means the fate of that we saw in the time bug cycle is still very possible. Yeah.
Yep.
And then a few things that I found interesting is that I don't know if this is because of the reshoot business, because I'm thinking every episode, but that the relic wasn't there, and I feel like that was probably a reshoot thing. And also, I just noticed when they're taking off, I'm just still like, you got back to HQ, you didn't even say what's up to Detmer and Owo, who are flying the Enterprise back, but I guess they can't. And I don't know if this is because of that, but it seems interesting to me that Saru is on a mission near Breen space, and I wonder if that will come.
That's a great point, because I think I watched this and I was like, oh, there's a little side, there's Saru. And if there's no point to that, then there's no point. But there is nothing that ever doesn't have a point in Discovery.
Yeah. Usually they'd be like, Saru's doing something somewhere else, but to say he's near the Breen Imperium that we could get intel somehow seems useful. Anyway, we're headed to the last. I think that's anything else you'd like to chat about in this episode?
Nope.
I mean, golly.
We've got tons of Easter eggs.
Oh, yeah. Great. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. We go immediately to the Easter egg desk with Stevie Man. Stevie, how are you today?
Well, hi there, Rocky. That was a little bit deep. Thank you. We have tons of Easter eggs. Okay. And, Discovery is just getting more and more into them. I don't, Star Trek Strange New World is just littered with them. But Discovery, we've got so many callbacks to DS9. But let's start with, so we have Nan. Nan comes back. And if we have forgotten who Nan was, she was part of the crew of the USS Enterprise under Pike. And she joined Discovery in season 2 in search for the Red Angel. And she stayed with the crew when they jumped to the future in season 3. And let's not forget, she's probably, in fact, she is the only Enterprise crew member from the 23rd century who now lives in the 32nd century.
Yes, indeed.
Then we have the Dominion War medical research that you mentioned. Culber's doing this deep dive to learn more about the Breen to save L'ak. And he also notes, or we note that this is interesting in light of Star Trek Picard Season 3, where we learned that Star Trek was secretly experimenting with changelings. We wonder, did perhaps Culber stumble upon any of that research? Never turn your back on a Breen. That was a Romulan saying, comes from Deep Space Nine by Inferno's Light.
That's right.
And obviously because Tarina is seemingly Vulcan and the Vulcans and the Romulans are the same people in the time of Discovery, as revealed in Unification 3. Wow.
Yes.
That they all lived together on the planet Nivar. Breen attack on the Federation. We're reminded that the last time the Breen paid a visit to the Federation, they destroyed an entire city, referencing a Deep Space Nine episode, The Changing Face of Evil. Tilly, we have Tilly being worried about her cadets, which is another reference to The Changing Face of Evil in Deep Space Nine. Tilly expresses her concern about her cadets' safety if the Breen attack Federation HQ. And in the Deep Space Nine era, Starfleet Academy was still located in San Francisco, although now it is not. That being said, the upcoming show Starfleet Academy will move back to Earth and San Francisco. Yes, some news about that. We also learned that this episode and the next piece of the progenitor puzzle is a book called Labyrinths of the Mind, the Betazoid manuscript written by Dr. Marina Derex. And nota bene, Marina is almost certainly a reference to Marina Sirtis, the beloved actress who's played the half-Betazoid character Deanna Troi in Next Gen and Picard, a few cameos on Voyager and the Enterprise finale. So love that. And let's see. So the book was also written in 2371, which is the same year that USS Voyager left Space Station, Deep Space Nine for the Badlands. It's also the same year that Thomas Riker stole the USS Defiant from that same station.
Wild.
And it's also the year that USS Enterprise D crash-landed its saucer section very famously in Viridian 3 in Star Trek Generations, which also means that it's the same year that a time-displaced Captain James T. Kirk was killed. Big year.
Good Lord.
Lots of
big year.
That Easter egg is just giant.
That's huge. Jeez.
Love that. Let's not forget Seven of Limes. I did
Can't
love
forget
that.
Seven of Limes.
Is that? I wonder if it's some sort of futuristic margarita.
It has to be.
Maybe, I don't know. I would love to recreate that somehow with some sort of Star Trek cocktail. I could do it.
I know.
Reno mentions a holodeck adventure for the littles. Now, that immediately made me think of the Star Trek Next Gen episode where they were all mini. You know, I think it was a classic transporter mistake, that one. However, nothing to do, that Easter egg doesn't play out in reality, but the most prominent holodeck adventure for children that we're aware of in Trek canon was The Adventures of Flotter, which first appeared in the Voyager episode Once Upon a Time. And interestingly, these writer nerds, in Picard Season 1, Soji had a Flotter lunchbox.
Oh, yes. That's insane to me.
That's nuts, isn't it?
Just so nerdy.
And it must have been in the background on some sort of shelf before she...
Oh, Flotter!
Right, before she got stolen from her home or, kidnapped and all that. Let's see. The Badlands. So by the end of the episode, the Eternal Gallery's location, and thus the location of the book, Labyrinths of the Mind, is revealed to be in the Badlands, which is an unstable area of space, which was first mentioned in, you guessed it, Deep Space Nine.
Correct.
Although the Badlands is most famous as the area where the USS Voyager went missing in its 1995 debut, Caretaker, the concept of the Badlands was first introduced a year earlier in 1994 in DS9's second season, The Maquis Part 1. And the Badlands is located near what used to be Cardassian space. So in its next episode, Discovery will literally be traveling directly to the neighborhood of Deep Space Nine. And we have no idea if the wormhole is still there in this time period.
Indeed. Terok Nor, as the Cardassians called it.
Or if the old station is still alive and kicking. But as Discovery continues to drop surprises in its final season, we can keep our fingers crossed for a glimpse of a very special space station.
Space station. I would love that.
That was good.
Oh, I wish I had it's on tour. Anyway, sorry.
That is all the Easter eggs I have. Aki, it is back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Stevie. And now we go immediately to news.
Oh, let's go to news.
News from around the galaxy.
So, we have two bits of exciting news.
Okay.
So, this is big news, I think, or potentially. So Terry Matalas, showrunner for Picard, has recently accepted a job at Disney Plus, and he is to lead Marvel's WandaVision sequel series.
Oh, my goodness.
I know. And I think that's led a lot of Trek fans to have some consternation about what hope there might still be for a legacy follow-up series. Sorry, for a legacy Picard follow-up series. And also, I think with Paramount Plus up for sale, I don't know, plans of a new spin-off series are looking a little far off at this point anyway.
Yeah.
But Matalas apparently is still holding out hope for a spin-off series, saying, look, anything is possible. We certainly wouldn't be like, oh, no, we aren't going to do a movie. So potentially it's a movie. But I think he's hoping out for a series. And he said, for me, I would just need this crew. I would need this cast. And as long as that was a possibility, we would figure something out. Yes, a series is ideal because there's so many stories to tell. And the 25th century in general in Star Trek is such a rich thing. So
tell me about it.
Let's hope. Let's hold out hope.
Let's hope.
Let's have faith in the heart.
Let's have faith of the heart.
And our other bit of news, this was revealed this week. Holly Hunter has joined the cast of Starfleet Academy.
Oh, I missed that. I think I missed that entirely.
She's joined the cast as Chancellor, and co-runners Alex Kurtzman and Noga Landau said, it feels like we spent our entire lives watching Holly Hunter be a stone-cold genius. To have her extraordinary authenticity, fearlessness, sense of humour and across-the-board brilliance leading the charge on Starfleet Academy is a gift to all of us and to the enduring legacy of Star Trek.
Wow.
So it's still in pre-production.
Wow.
I know. Wow.
Yeah.
It is still in pre-production. Starfleet Academy will be filmed over in Pinewood Studios in Toronto, the former home of Star Trek Discovery. So they've got that big AR wall, the big wall.
Yeah.
So, and filming is expected to take place later this summer. And so it will house the largest standing set ever used in a Star Trek production. So I think we can assume that this new Starfleet Academy series is going to be big production budget.
All right. I'm in.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Well, that's all from the news.
News from around the galaxy.
Shall we move on to quotable moments?
Let's. Quotable moments.
Well, there's quite a few in this bad boy. I'll start by mentioning Raynor's, super angry Breen, and he says the word diplomacy is not even in their vocabulary. And then Trina says, then we will teach it to them. And then Raynor says, it's more of a pipe dream than a tactic. Ooh. Moll and L'ak and Michael, they say some things are worse than death. And Michael says, what's worse than death? And Moll says, this conversation, for starters. Which, snappy repartee when the universe hangs in the balance. That's all I'll say.
Oh, I was going to say, Jet Reno just always has so many.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Jet's jabs.
Oh, God, I forget every time about that punch. Good Lord.
I think you probably have the exact ones, but she was talking about the Breen, and she said it's the faceless helmets, truncheon vibes. Where's the nuance?
Where's the nuance, baby?
And when asked about, I think, being an antique book expert, she said, "Oh, I might have padded my resume a little with that one."
I love that.
So good.
Reno had a resume.
Yes,
yeah.
And then her Seven of Limes reference was just, I loved it.
We got to be making 7 of Limes out there.
Do we have our 7 of Limes?
She's 7 of Limes. 7 of Limes. 7 of Limes. 7 of Limes.
It's 7 of Limes.
Limes. It's 7 of Limes. That's so dumb that we did that.
Just like one of my favorite jobs.
That's very good.
She's 7 of Limes.
I mean, that would be pretty good for an ad.
It would.
It's like a refreshing 7 of Limes.
Mountain
I also
Dew.
enjoyed Mountain Dew 7 of Limes. Good God. When Trina bluffs the Breen saying that they needed to come up with extradition orders, Michael says, extradition orders? And Trina says, it seemed preferable to claims of a tribble infestation. Which I thought was very cute. How Navarians lie. I mean, if I was ever going to get a tattoo, and I won't because I'm afraid of needles, it would be what the Primarch says right before he leaves sickbay. He says, intention is nothing. Outcome is everything. Which I just feel is very, very Klingon-esque. But sure. Cool. That's all I
Intent
got.
versus impact. That's really what he's saying.
That's what he's saying, baby.
That's basically therapy speak.
Come on. The Breen are in touch, bro. The Breen are awoke.
Shall we move on to next time?
Let's move on to next time.
Next time on Set Phasers.
Next time on Set Phasers, we'll discuss episode 8 of season 5 of Star Trek Discovery entitled Labyrinths. So that should be very exciting. I'm sure it's very straightforward. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for hopefully downloading this. If you liked what you heard today and you have never heard this podcast before, hey, head over to wherever you get your podcast from and look us up. We got everything. We just covered Discovery. We've covered Picard. We've covered Lower Decks. We've covered Strange New Worlds. We're talking about Trek over here, baby. Find us.
Yeah, find us on YouTube, find us on Apple Podcasts. Wherever you get your podcasts is always good. But we have lots of cool new things on YouTube that we're playing with. And yeah, what's coming up next episode, Aki?
Oh, probably like a puzzle or like a maze or like something like that. And like trying to figure out like, what does that mean for like humanity? Like, what are you finding at the bottom of like the inside of like this maze? Like, what is consciousness and like what is responsibility? And like, how do you use that impactfully as beings that could create life in another galaxy? That's my guess.
I loved that bit. I've never seen you do that bit before.
You like that bit?
Fun. It was like you were like this sort of Californian guy at college or something.
Yeah, I don't know what that was, but that's when you asked me that, that's what came out.
Oh, loved it.
Why did we do that? We're in the next time. We're out of here. Yeah. Also find us on Instagram, and hey, share us with your friends or whatever. If they like Star Trek, they'll like this.
Totally. Well, that's it from me. I am Stevie Mans.
and I will speak in your tongue so there can be no misunderstanding. And this has been Set Phasers, a highly illogical Star Trek podcast.
Computer? End program.
Oh, so beautiful.